Hey guys, Hamsterwheel here with a new video, and today I have something special for you because, as you might have noticed, I have made a video lately talking about the parses in Wrath Lich King Classic, and me as a regular casual player, I don't know too much about the fights, I don't know too much about the details of every single fight, so I brought in the big guns, and the big guns, it goes by the name of Rugs. How you doing, my man?
Yo, what's up, man? Thank you so much for having me, Hamsterwheel. I've been a fan of your channel for a long time. It's an honor to be here, and you sell yourself way too damn short. You are not just a casual who doesn't know anything about the fights, man. You've been in this scene for 7, 8 years. You're one of us.
That may be true, but it's so funny. I'm like a druid in real life. I'm the jack of all trades, but the master of none. So I'm a total alcoholic. So if you ask me like the rotation of, I don't know, whatever class, I can do it. But if you ask me how to min-max, I'm like, I don't know. And I know some details, but, you know, we'll dive into it, no doubt. But there have been some things that I listened to on the Warcraft Reloaded podcast. Shout out to Bob and Melorina, by the way, they're awesome. I think you've been on there too, right?
I have, yeah. I love them. Bob and
Nice.
Mel are incredible. If I could, I would just be a staple regular on their show because it's just so much fun every time being with them.
Exactly. But to go back to my point, I've heard them talk about a few details about why this class is doing so much. I'm like, oh my god, I had no idea. So that's why I figured, you know, this might be really cool to do. So before we get started, guys, Rugs, how about you tell a little bit about yourself for the people that don't know who you are?
Sure. So I'm Rugs. I play on Benediction Alliance. I play in a guild called Fusion. We're a really high performing North American guild. We obtained all the realm firsts on Benediction.
Wow,
I
nice.
mostly mained Feral Druid and Death Knight. I've been playing specifically Wrath of the Lich King for, I want to say, 3, 4 years now, something like that. You know me, unashamedly playing all the P servers. I'm not afraid to admit it. And most of that time was spent one-tricking Death Knight, playing at a really high level there, and trying to push for realm first on P server. And now, for the first time in my life, I've converted into a bit of a Feral Druid main with Classic, and that
Nice.
has been my typical go-to bread and butter on top of my DK that I'm playing just equally as much. I've been making some YouTube videos for the past, I want to say, 11 months or so, and mostly started kicking off with just talking about Wrath of the Lich King hype and hype for Classic, and then next thing you know, like, it's here, and we're playing it. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
been a lot of fun.
That's it. I bet it is because admittedly I'm still watching from the sideline. I'm not subscribed to Wrath Classic. But like you said, you know, you've messed around on Wrath private servers and I'm able to still get a little bit of that Wrath flavor on private servers as well. So that's really cool. And you're maining a Feral Druid right now, right? As well as a DK, like you said. Have you mained a Feral
Yeah.
Druid all the way from the beginning of Classic Vanilla or recently switched?
So I didn't play in Vanilla. When Vanilla Classic
Ah,
came
okay.
out, I only made it to like level 40 something, and it just wasn't for me. I quit and just went back to my Wrath P servers. But when TBC came out, I played both TBC and Wrath P servers all at the same time. But
Nice.
all through TBC, I played Cat DPS, which, as you probably know, Cat DPS and TBC was left a lot to be desired,
True.
to say the least. But it was so much fun. I absolutely loved it.
Power shifting.
And my
Yep.
Yeah, and my guild was happy with my performance on Cat, and they invited me to continue maining it in Wrath. And I said, "All right, let's give it a shot." And turns out it's really, really, really fun, and I'm loving it, loving it.
Nice. Wasn't it kind of fun though? Because I'm a sucker for underdog classes. Wasn't it kind of fun knowing you're not gonna be the absolute top number one? You're not gonna be up there with the Destro locks or whatever. But wasn't it kind of fun knowing that people didn't expect much of you, and then really, you know, and then seeing you up there, like, oh, he's actually doing a good job and everything. Wasn't that kind of the fun aspect of being a kitty DPS in TBC?
Absolutely, it was absolutely. I mean, I never stood a chance on any AOE thing,
Oh
but
yeah.
I could do something for overall or do something for like single target. Like I remember my openings on Felmist and Brutalis were always pretty decent, and so I had my moments where I shined, and it got, you know, some respect. And Wrath, it's funny because it's almost an opposite effect. Like you and I both know from our piece of your experience, we have this idea of where Feral is in the meta, and Classic is kind of destroying what we had thought
Yes.
Feral would be in terms of performance.
Yes, and we will undoubtedly get into that. So yeah, I just real quick, the AOE fights, man. I feel you, dude. Being a balanced druid, you have a hurricane and you have a 1 minute cooldown. Like, what the hell, Blizzard? Like, who thought that was a good idea? Come on.
That was horrible. I remember times I would just hit Hurricane as a Feral Druid. 1 minute CD. I mean, I'm not going to do anything on an AoE pack. I may as well just hit Hurricane.
Exactly. Yeah. That's cool, man. All right, man. Well, there you go. I have a few more questions for you before we get started. If you could be any character in WoW, who would it be and why? Any character.
Whoa.
Yeah, I caught you off guard there.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you about your shoe size next, so prepare.
Okay. If I could be any character, I wish I had more time to think about this, but my quick, like, instinctive reaction is probably King Murgle.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to be the guy who's dressed up in the Murloc outfit, living with the Murlocs on the beach. I think he's got a pretty good setup. They like him. They follow him.
Nice.
Seems like a pretty solid dude.
All right. Good answer. Good answer. Thanks. Horde Alliance. I think you've already answered that. Your Alliance, right?
I am Alliance. Unfortunately, I wish I was Horde
Dude,
so bad, but yeah.
Come on, dude. What? All right, man. This video's over. Thanks for watching, guys. It's no, I'm just kidding, man. It's all right. One day you'll see. I mean, I don't want to say one day you'll see the light because that kind of resembles the Alliance, but you'll return to the Mud Huts one of these days.
I want to so bad, dude.
Yeah. All right. And let's say Blizzard would release Cata Classic, Classicalism, whatever you want to call it. Would you actually play it? Would you give it a try?
Probably not. I think the only reason why I'd go to Classic is if I had a big group of friends that was going to play Classic.
Okay.
Cata. I just don't have any interest in it. I never played it when it was original. I quit after Wrath of the Lich King anyway, and I never played any Cata P server. I don't have any interest, and I probably would likely try to pivot into like a retail guy or maybe the Riot MMO or just something different.
Nice.
Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. And last but definitely not the least question, what is your favorite pizza topping?
Ooh, okay, I'm more of like just the classic pepperoni. I just like pepperoni,
Nice.
nothing else. Sometimes I do jalapenos, and sometimes I'll do like bell peppers or something on it. But really, just like classic pepperoni is perfect for me.
You can't beat it, man. There's a reason why it's so popular. I mean, pepperoni, man, it's always good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. A good thing you didn't say pineapple, because then I'd be like, what the hell, man? People that put pineapple on pizza, like, what are you guys doing? All right.
I don't think it's sinful to put pineapple on your pizza, but I would never do it myself.
My dad does it. I don't know what the hell he's thinking. I tried it. It's awful. But anyway, yeah, whatever floats your boat. I mean, some people are weird like that, and we are weird as in I've played a Boomy in Vanilla Classic, so you know that's like, yeah, we're both weird in our own ways. All right. How about we delve into some fights and look at some parses, and you give me some more insight into the fights and why X class is on top and why Y class is on the bottom. Alright guys, and we're starting off with Patchwerk, the big bullet sponge. Not many crazy tactics here, and we see Unholy Death Knight on top, Demonology Warlocks, Affliction Warlocks. All pretty similar to the tier list that also you created, and I've seen other people. Are there any nuances you'd like to talk about in terms of this fight? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, there are some obvious names that are showing up towards the bottom that are a little disappointing. Firstly, like, my main Feral Druid is just really, really low, when Patchwerk to me, like, is our moment to shine, especially in Phase 1, and it's just really, really low. It's performing well under expectations, but as we'll see throughout all the boss fights, Feral is going to continue to be somewhere around that lower tier range.
Yeah.
Definitely above like Ret Paladin on basically every single fight, and it has their moments. I think Thaddius is a good one for Feral, but Feral being here on Patchwerk is pretty disappointing. And then I think another one that is actually like semi-surprising is Balance doing really, really well on Patchwerk.
Yep.
Even higher than Survival Hunter. That's shocking. basically on par with survival.
Do you have any idea why? I mean, I noticed that in the tier list, people thought them as C tiers. Now, I'm naturally biased. I love boomies. I've also played one to a pretty decent extent on Wrath private servers, and I thought I was doing alright. So I thought that C was a little too low. But do you have any idea why they're scoring so high exactly? Or is just everyone thought didn't expect as much from boomies?
I'm really not sure, and even the boomies that I've talked to aren't sure either, at least the ones who have played on Peace server. If anything, they're just learning that certain things like maybe Moonfire isn't doing as much damage as it did on Peace server, or isn't yet, or something like that. So maybe it's just a different optimization of rotation or something, or I really can't say. It's genuinely shocking. They're doing very good. I know that there have been players, like you just said, who have done very well in balance on P server, but this to me seems like a shocker. And I think it's healthy for the game for balance to be doing really well too.
Yeah,
so
yep.
I'm happy to see balance where it's at.
Nice. Now I want to talk to you about this because I had this 99th percentile pars video up, and a lot of people commented on it. By the way, guys, thank you so much for the comments. One guy mentioned this, and I want to see if you think it's true. He said that Feral Druids were much higher on private servers, mostly Warmane, and this is just pure speculation. I cannot fact check this. He said that one of the devs or one of the people in charge of Warmane, they played a Feral Druid themselves or had a soft spot for them, so they buffed Omen of Clarity up the ass. And because of that, Feral Druids were kicking ass in Warmane, but now that we have the Blizz-like Omen of Clarity, now it's a lot disappointing. Do you think this is true, or is there something else going on?
I think there's definitely, I don't know about the tinfoil hat with blaming it on a developer who had influence on the Omen proc rate, because this was actually the case for every private server, including Warmane and other like maybe Sunwell core servers. Feral Druid was able to use things like flame caps pretty reliably across every server to obtain more Omen procs. There were occasions, and by occasions I mean a couple months, and then it would get bug fixed, where you would use things like Storm Chops, and Storm Chops would proc Omen of Clarity, which was very, very good.
Okay.
Lots of different things. Overall, the proc rate was also just higher in general. Currently, when you do like a Gift of the Wild on Classic, you have roughly, I want to say, a 95% chance of getting an Omen proc, which is really nice. On P server, it was like straight up 100%. So there's definitely something is a little off. I can't say what it is exactly, and even just playing both like back to back, like if I go from a P server Feral to a classic Feral, it definitely has a lot to do with Omen. It could have something to do with maybe energy rates or something, but it feels way slower and way rougher on classic. And I do think that with gear and tier set bonuses, that Feral will take a massive jump ahead as they do scale really, really, really well.
Nice.
They're the fastest class to hit like a soft armor pin cap. Like we can do that literally next phase.
Nice.
So they will catch up, but right now they are sadly so low.
Yeah, I know. It's a bit sad. And just for you guys, I am planning on doing another one of these videos right before Old War launches. So, you know, the 99 percentile where I assume everyone has like phase 1 BIS gear. And I'm going to compare, and hopefully I'll see Feral's way more up there. And maybe I also do it when right after Old War released. So I'll definitely keep track on every single class. And, you know, I'm a sucker for the Druid. It's my favorite class right next to Shamans. So I'm hoping we'll see like the orange like getting higher and higher and higher. But yeah, we'll have to see. Are you also surprised by the fact that Fire and Arcane are surprisingly close to each other? When everyone said, "Oh, you got to go Arcane phase 1, forget Fire, go Arcane." Are you surprised? Or
actually, I mean, a little bit. I mean, I knew Fire wasn't as far off on Arcane as people may have, myself included, as I may have made it out to be.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's pretty surprising, especially with these really, really low or fast boss kill times. It is kind of weird seeing Arcane as low as it is. I honestly would have expected Arcane to be up there with like the Combat Rogue and Frost DK.
Right, same, yeah.
The fact they're behind Destro, Balance, Survival on Patchwerk, and a 99th percentile perspective, that is a pretty surprising to me. But again, that's very like minuscule numbers off from where we were thinking they would be.
All right, cool. All right, I think we talked now for Patchwerk. How about we move on to the next boss fight?
Sounds good.
Okay, we're on to the next fight, which is Grobbulus. We see a bit of a change here. We see Unholy Death Knight once again on top, and actually Assassination Rogue number 2. Now you're gonna see a trend here, which is Unholy Death Knight is gonna take the number 1 spot a lot. I've heard something about the Gargoyle being very, very powerful in Classic. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more about that? Because I don't know too much about it.
Yeah, so the Gargoyle scripting on Classic is very close to what it should be. It is a uncapped GCD Gargoyle that snapshots basically everything that any normal snapshot would. But what we're specifically looking at is haste. And so when you're like in Unholy Presence and getting a large snapshot with your Bloodlust and your Meteorite Whetstone, your meta gem that people are now using to get I want to say another 400 or 500 haste, plus your potion, plus your engineering gloves. I mean, there are so many things that go into a Unholy DK's Gargoyle snapshot that we just weren't doing on P server. That it is just hitting some astronomical numbers. It's really, really cool to see. And it's funny that like we just had so much to learn still about Unholy DK, even after years and years and years of playing on P server. And that's why like Dual Wield Unholy has come out as basically king of phase 1. And it's really cool to see. And most of that is just being absolutely dominated by their Army of the Dead and their Gargoyle summons.
Awesome. And I want to like add a little bit to that, because it's interesting that you say that, because we talked about predictions of Classic like vanilla and predictions of TBC, and with Wrath of the Lich King, people really said no, it's going to be probably very, very accurate to private servers, and there's going to be very little new discovery, so to say. And they said that because admittedly Wrath of the Lich King is the most popular private server, so to say. I mean, I'm sure you know the meme of oh, here comes fresh Wrath server number 3000, it's called Frozen WoW, 20 times XP rate, here's the cash shop, So we all thought like, okay, you know what, we've researched the hell out of Wrath of the Lich King, we won't see anything new things, and here we are, we're proven wrong once again that there's still nuances and still kind of new metas. I wouldn't say like completely new different things from my end, unless you have something right now that pops up where you say, actually, like this is completely new. So is there anything new or?
Not necessarily. I think the Unholy DK stuff is probably the most fascinating new discovery.
Yeah.
On top of that, probably the rogue that does the spec swapping for overall damage, and like the Titan Steel like spell power dagger for more
really
Fan of Knives damage and stuff. Have you seen that?
No, I have not. Okay, so they're using Fan of Knives stacks with spell power.
So it's not about it being spell power, but they use the blacksmith crafted dagger that has spell power on it in their main hand for Fan of Knives, because it's slow. It's really slow. It's like a 2.5 speed dagger, which like you can't get those.
So just the raw weapon damage, and that's multiplied through the AoE. Wow. Okay.
Right. And they're just, these are things that would have worked on P server. It's not that this is a Classic only thing. It's just we didn't discover it until now. It's crazy.
Damn. Wow. Okay, so let's look at the charts a little bit more. Now, Enhancement Shaman, as we're going to go through these fights, they're actually doing really well. But here they're struggling a little bit. Do you know why?
Yeah, I mean, Grobbulus is definitely a high mobility fight, so when they need to refresh totems, either if they get out of range of things like their Strength of Earth, or if just in general they're getting out of range of their Magma, or probably the biggest thing is one reason why Enhanced Shamans are getting such crazy high numbers on like Patchwerk or like fights where you don't have to move is because of their Fire Elemental. If you summon a Fire Elemental on Grobbulus, then you basically get to wave goodbye to your Fire Elemental as you pull the boss away, and all your Fire Nova just goes out the window. So it's basically like you can't use Fire Ele on Grobbulus at all. So that's why Elementals or Enhance is doing so low here.
Okay, gotcha. So another thing I want to point out here on the fight of Grobbulus is Subtlety Rogues. Now, Subtlety Rogues wasn't even considered like a C or a D. It was more like a, don't bother with this spec, same as Beastmastery Hunter. Here they're actually doing okays and actually even beating out Elemental Shaman. Do you maybe know why they're doing okay-ish?
Honestly, I don't know anything about Subtlety Rogue in a PvE setting. I have no idea why they're even being played. I'm sure
Same,
if we
yeah.
checked the number of parses, they would probably be extremely low, like insanely, insanely low. But maybe people are just memeing around and doing something crazy on Subtlety. But at the end of the day, they're still like a mile behind combat and assassination.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mention it because I checked to see kind of I think I'm not sure about Subtlety Rogue, but I checked Beast Mastery and Frost Mage because again those are two like don't roll. It's more for PvP blah blah blah. And I checked the parsers. There were thousands in the 99th percent. I was like, what? Who's playing these? Who's playing these specs? But apparently people.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know, and I mean. You can check it out on Warcraft logs if you guys don't believe me. I guess maybe there's like a small niche of people. That's just how I started in vanilla as a boomkin. That everyone was telling them this is garbage. Don't roll it, and they're like, you know what? I'm gonna roll it just to show you guys that it might work. So I don't know, man. It's so weird.
It's really weird because I've seen more Blood DK DPS than I've seen a Subtlety Rogue or a Frost Mage or a BM Hunter. Like, how the hell did they get here?
I don't know. Guys, if you're watching and you're playing a BM Frost or a Subtlety, just let us know. Why? What are you doing? Is it just a meme around, or let us know?
Did you accidentally forget to respec?
Yeah, maybe now. It's like, oh, fuck, I forgot. Oh, we're doing combat. Okay, fine. We're just going to Subtlety and just roll with it or whatever. Okay, cool. Is there any other class here you want to talk about before we move on to the next fight?
Just two things I want to mention about Grobbulus is one, for these rankings that we're looking at, damage to ads, like the slimes, is not counting here.
Yep.
That's been completely removed for Grobbulus. So really what we're looking at is just a little bit of movement and how that affects these players versus how no movement on Patchwerk would. So just kind of the variance there. And also, if you look at the top 100, just straight up, the top 100 damage done on Grobbulus, there are no rogues in it. It's actually Unholy DK, Affliction Lock, Demo Lock, and then Arcane Mage. So even though Arcane Mage is coming up here as, the 5th or 6th on this list, they actually can, at the highest end, be doing just as much as an Unholy DK or Affliction Lock. So just keep all that, like, in the back of your mind when you look at these.
Of course. And as a quick reminder to add to that, guys, please take these parses with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, this is just people, probably people who've, tunnel vision the boss and try to get a highest numbers as possible. Of course, if you're a good raider, that also means you sometimes got to stop DPS. Let's say you're a balanced druid, and I don't know, the main tank dies, so a really important healer dies. You're a better player if you go, run over to the other side of the room, battle rest that player, and then go back. Your parse will be lower, but your value as a player is higher. So there's of course so many factors that come to play. Take this with a grain of salt, but again, this is kind of the best analytics tool we have for now, I say. So, and it's just it's more for fun too. So there you go. All right, we're on to the third boss. Rugs, do you know how to pronounce this boss? I don't know for the life of me.
I've always said Gluth.
Yeah, Gluth too. I've heard people say Gluth or Gluth. I don't know. It's just it's this boss, the big scary dog with the decimate feature. Like there you go. That's the one. So once again, Unholy on top, Assassination Rogue second. Enhancement Shaman, we saw that they were doing not so great, and Grobbulus are back up there. Yeah, is there anything you want to add here? Any nuances? Anything we should take into consideration?
Yeah, it's just good to see Enhance jumping up from where they were on Grobbulus when you add a little bit of movement and basically remove the fact they can't use Fire Ellie. It's good to see Enhance back where they should be when you don't have to move very much. So this is a great one for Enhance. And that's basically it. I mean, I feel like this chart even doesn't paint the picture fully for Unholy DK. Unholy DK, again, at the top here, but they are at the top by a massive, massive margin.
Yeah.
Because even in just like the top 100 damage done on Gluth, it's all Unholy DK. 99 of them. There's only one Affliction Lock. That's it. That's the top 100.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just
It's crazy.
yeah, it's a real stupid question because correct me if I'm wrong, but the slimes are not counted for Grobbulus. Are the ads during the decimation phase counted at Gluth or Gluth?
They are not.
Okay, so once again, if you're really pulling strong numbers during the ads, it's once again just a bad damage on the big bad dog. That's a bit unfortunate. By the way, one thing I see, because you're a Feral Druid player, here, they're actually not doing too bad, I think.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Feral is actually keeping up here, moving up like way higher, actually doing more than a Fire Mage or Elisham. I find that pretty interesting,
Yep.
and I think some of that could maybe have to do with the boss kill time, as it's getting much shorter now. Gluth is going to be probably in the top 5 for duration of fight.
Okay.
So Gluth being a really fast one does kind of help Feral a little bit, just making sure that we're getting the most out of our Berserk.
Okay, and do you have any idea why all 3 Hunter specs are so low? Like, look at them, way at the bottom.
Yeah, so Hunter has a couple responsibilities on Gluth. One could be that they're being assigned to, drop traps in the back,
Of course.
or the fact that they're going to have to trank shot the boss, which is a global spent that they wouldn't normally have to do for where they could normally get damage. So those 2 reasons are going to bring the number of parses that hunters have at that 99th percentile far lower, because a normal a normal responsible hunter is probably going to be doing something a little extra. So that basically means that they can't trap weave when they want to.
Yeah.
But I think at the highest end, if we went max and looked at this, hunters who don't have any responsibility and can just straight turret on the boss and trap weave, they're probably going to be doing a little bit better. But for the most part, hunters just take a massive shot on Gluth because they're going to drop a frost trap in the back.
Yeah, I understand. And it's just such a meme, but I don't know if you can see it. Subtlety Rogue, once again, in the middle. Like, what the... Yeah, what's going on here? Oh, it's so crazy, man. Again, if you play Subtlety Rogue, please let us know in the comments, why, and how do you make it work? Because, if you look at the rest of the class, they're not doing too bad, actually. They're doing okay. It's crazy, but there they are.
Still doing about 1,500 DPS less than Assassination on the same fight, but yeah,
obviously
they're doing all right, yeah.
But that's the thing, you could be playing, you could be doing way more DPS, but the DPS you're doing as Subtlety it's adequate, it's good enough, so the boss goes down and you're still doing decent amount of damage. It's crazy, but yeah, there you go. That's Gluth. Is there anything else you want to add, or shall we move on to the next one?
I think I should mention. And I know I keep going back to him, but on Holy DKs, what helps right now is the scripting on Gargoyle, and I should have said this at the beginning, is it gets summoned on top of the mob that you're targeting, which isn't how it should be. And even on beta, it was working properly, where it would summon to your front left.
And then it has to run over there and everything. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so what you should have to do, what you did back in the day, 10, 12 years ago during Wrath or whatever, and during most private servers that were scripted correctly, you would have to do a 180-degree turn around, summon your Gargoyle, and then go back to the boss. Because if he's in melee range, he might be doing melee attacks, which is a DPS loss.
Yeah. Oh,
so when he's summoned... When he gets summoned on top of the mob, that means he's literally in melee range, and there's nothing you can do about it as an unholy DK. So fights like Gluth and Grobbulus, where if you summon your Gargoyle and then the boss is dragged a little bit, that actually helps you. That's a DPS gain. Wow. So as long as you're getting your raid to pop Lust early on Gluth before he's dragged all the way to the wall, that's a gain for you. Assuming you get a good snapshot off.
There you go. I'm so happy you're able to elaborate a bit more on Death Knights, because admittedly, I'm going to be honest here, I know nothing about Death Knights. I've never played one even. I've played one on Warmain. I got to even it's the high rate server, so I got to level 58, and I just I can't. I'm sorry. So I know nothing about. I heard a few things here and there, again from podcasts, from other people talking. It's such a foreign class to me. I just can't get into it. So happy to have you give me some information on this. So there you go.
Great. If I go off the deep end, just feel free to cut me off.
No, it's good, man. It's good. I mean, I'm sure we have a lot of unholy Death Knight players watching this and listening to this, and they're like, yes, keep talking about us more. We're getting mentioned. All right, how about we move on to the next boss?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, and then of course the last boss of the Construct Quarter, Thaddius, with the polarization effect, where you gotta stand on one side and the other, and of course before that you gotta kill two smaller bosses. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but look at Assassination Row, complete domination, and Unholy Death Knight nowhere to be seen, and it's Frost on number 2. So, Rugs, take it away. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, so let's just jump right on it with Unholy DK. A big reason why they absolutely suck on Thaddius is because their pet damage isn't going to get the benefit of the percent damage increase that Thaddius gives when standing next to each other on your polarities. And if you ever look at the damage breakdown of any Unholy DK, it's nearly 50% of their damage is going to be pet damage. It's a ridiculous amount. And so because they can't get that benefit, they're just going to be doing normal Unholy DK numbers compared to everyone else.
Okay.
Assassination Rogue being this high is actually insane and really cool to see, but also not surprising at all either, because Thaddius is one of the longest fights in Phase 1, probably the longest outside of maybe Malygos, if you want to include Malygos in the conversation, even though it's like a mounted fight.
Yeah.
Assassination does great on long fights because Assassination really doesn't have cooldowns. They have Cold Blood, they have Vanish.
Yeah.
That's basically it. They're just going to be like straight blasting the whole time. So the longer the fight goes on, the longer you're going to be in that damage increase area, and you don't have to worry so much about getting like some ridiculous cooldown usage out of it either. So they're just going to be constant blasting. They actually don't suffer a whole lot from being in front of a mob. They don't have to be behind, but if they parry a little bit, it's going to be okay. So Assassination Rogue, just absolutely dumps on Thaddius.
Nice. And again, I know very little about Death Knight, so why is Frost DK so high up here? What's going on?
I think Frost DK does really well here because, again, similar to Assassination, they can do really well in long fights because they don't need to hit some like crazy, Gargoyle or Berserk or any like big major cooldown.
Yeah.
They have UA being used all the time. They don't have to worry about any pet summon scaling. That's not going to work with them on this fight. It's just straight pumpage. Increased damage percent is going to work really well for Frost DK because, again, they don't need a lot of gear to do well. They just are naturally like base Death Knight. Frost DK is just really, really, really strong. And so they just absolutely blast on this fight. They do great. And most DK players will probably just, hit that respec right before they pull Thaddius and go Frost because Frost is just infinitely better than Unholy.
Nice. Okay. Now I'm gonna I want to focus in on one more thing on this fight. I mean, you can add more if you want to, but I'm gonna start with a little story. So I used to play on Dalaran WoW. I don't know if you know that private server.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Dalaran WoW, for the people that don't know, is a Wrath Lich King private server. This is the private server I played on with my real life friends. We raided all the way from Naxxramas, Ulduar, TOC, and an ICC. And throughout almost the entirety, I played as a Destruction Warlock. So I went PvE Destruction. And the general consensus in private servers was Destruction, PvP, Demo, or Affliction, generally better for PvE. And I was the lone Destruction Warrior that was like, but I don't know, my damage is okay and I'm doing alright. And I like the fat Chaos Bolt crit, so just leave me alone, okay? And then the tier list came out and people rated Destruction as, not that great, C or D. And we're gonna see this more in these parses as we go along. They're actually doing really well, and here they're actually number 5. Can you tell us a little bit about Destruction Warlocks and why they're so high? Or
I don't know a whole lot about Destruction. I'm more of a melee DPS player, but I will say just from passing the eye test, Destruction has always passed the eye test when it comes to damage increase fights. Thaddius is a good example, of course, like what we're looking at, but also I think about Hodir and Ulduar. I think about Vezax and Ulduar.
Yeah.
When you're standing and like having all those buffs, Destruction has always done insanely well in fights like that. Hopefully, that continues to be the case, as I think variation in a true or in a full DPS class like a Warlock, being able to play all 3 specs in a raid environment, I think that is awesome and very healthy for the game. But even still, like, Destruction is actually still losing to Affliction on Thaddius right here. But that doesn't have that doesn't mean that that will always be the case for these damage increase fights throughout the expansion. Destro will have their moments to shine. Absolutely.
Nice. And you know, us being both Druid players, it's good to see balanced Druids once again doing fine. Enhancement also really strong. Feral okay-ish, I see, you know, kind of average. Is there anything else you would like to point out in Thaddius? Like any obscure thing that you see where you're like, hey, that's weird?
I think it's cool that Fire is actually ahead of Arcane, even though they're basically like identical right next to each other. And I probably would associate that with the slight movement that you have to do on Thaddius. Arcane doesn't want to move naturally, outside of, you know, blinking in case they have to switch polarity. Fire has no issues moving ever. They have tons of mobility, tons of instant cast or quick cast. They are completely fine with that. And probably just it's another testament to the fact that Fire Mage does great with scaling. And so as we go through the expansion, you'll continue to see this trend where Fire Mage will just creep up. So I think that's cool to see. You could it's a toss up essentially between the two on this fight.
Yep.
And Feral is to me surprising that they're doing this well, because Feral on Thaddius is really rough to play because you need to shred. Mm-hmm. If you're not shredding, then you're spamming Mangle in front of the boss, which is miserable. So it's likely that the top parses on this fight are just the lucky ferals who got to be behind the boss the whole time. Mm-hmm. I'm not really too sure.
Okay, nice. Yeah, just to comment on Fire Mage, also, like I said, I'm an Altaholic, so I played everything, including a Fire Mage. And trust me, like the moment you get a hot streak, right when you have to just move a little bit for like a boss, so you can throw out an instant Pyroblast, like, oh. You know, it's just like you gotta move a little bit, but I can just throw out a hot streak Pyroblast, and it's like I'm having a good old time. One more thing I would like to say about Ferals. Maybe it's a theory I have. Do you think Ferals also score a bit lower because it's just a very complex like rotation to really nail down? Do you think that has an effect on how high we see them, or?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think Feral is the hardest class to play in the entire expansion, and I don't think many people would disagree with that. And I think there's a lot of like actual evidence to back that up as well, based on the variance in parses. And so that probably has a lot to do with it. Thankfully, what Feral has going for it on Thaddius is the damage buff does apply to your bleeds, so that's really great for snapshotting purposes with that. But that's basically it.
Okay, cool. All right, then let's move on to the next boss. Okay, guys, that was it for the Construct Quarter. We're now going into the Plague Wing, and we're starting off with Noth the Plaguebringer. And once again, we got our Unholy Death Knight and Purple's leading. Arcane Mage doing very well. Enhancement Shaman. Again, I'm a sucker for the Shaman class, so I'm rooting for the blues. Rogues, is there anything you want to add here? Any obscenities, oddities that you see?
This looks to me like just a wonderful example of where we're at with the tier list for all these classes. This looks perfect to me. And I think Noth is one of the fastest kills in phase 1. So of course Arcane is going to do great with these really low fights, as well as Unholy. This is a great picture of where we're at in phase 1.
Nice, and it's good to see balanced druids once again doing quite well. And Destruction really tanked here compared to some fights. Is it just because they, like you said, do better with certain fights where they're really able to stack damage, like you said, Thaddius, or any other reason because you got ads or something, or
maybe also I don't know. Do the ads count on Noth?
It's a very good question. I don't know either.
It says that they don't. So the damage to the ads actually is excluded.
It's just
and so if there are Destro Blocks out there, they're likely, hitting their Shadow Fury and having some fun with that.
Yep.
Maybe they're just overall tanking their potential here. But again, I mean, I wouldn't put anything past Demo and Affliction, especially in these short kill times. Those two classes are just god tier.
Nice. Okay. One more thing I want to ask, and we've seen this over and over again: Retribution Paladin. It's not a good time to be a pink or a bubble boy. Can you just elaborate real quick why that is? Is it just because they're so gear dependent or something else? Go ahead.
I think the biggest Achilles heel to Ret Paladin is that we are on patch 335, which is balanced for ICC, and the fact that they're missing that set bonus from tier 10
Yeah. Oh.
is just, it's terrible for them. So playing these early raids without it is pretty much miserable. On top of the fact that basically all these parses that we're looking at, the ads aren't included. So basically everything in phase 1 is just straight boss damage. Is that like basically all we care about? And Ret Paladin, if they have anything, it's cleave.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
yeah.
when we can't look at cleave per se, really the only time that we can look at Ret Paladin and be like, oh hey, you're doing a good job here, it's usually like on overall. So that's probably why Ret Paladin's doing really poorly, and unfortunately for Ret Paladins, it doesn't get better in Ulduar. In fact, if anything, it gets worse because other classes get better around you.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, you're going to be fighting bosses that aren't undead, so you're missing out again on like an extra 1% damage. So you just kind of suffer a little bit more for a little bit longer. But hang in there, Ret Paladin friends. I mean, it does get better eventually.
It gets better. It gets better, you know. You're that the Red Pally is that geeky kid that no girl wants to look at, but you know what? You're really well in school, and 20 years later, you're gonna have a really successful tech company, and then you're gonna look at, I don't know, the let's see, the Unholy Death Knight that was the total Chad in school, and now he's unemployed, and you're like, yeah, man, the only Unholy Death Knight is gonna do really well in ICC too, right? That's not really a good comparison. I think they're gonna be.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay, then. Well, they're both gonna be millionaires. Either way, Red Pallies, just hold on, okay? Or worst case scenario, just go holy or protection, just something. But there you go. Anything else you want to add for Noth, or you think we can move on?
Noth looks good.
Okay. All right, on to the next boss, which is Heigan or Heigan. Rugs, how do you pronounce it? Heigan or Heigan?
I say Heigan.
Heigan. Okay, let's go with Heigan. Heigan the Unclean, the boss that you have to do the dance, of course, and we see yellow dominating, purple's not too far behind, and once again, a fight where Frost DK does better than Unholy Death Knight. So, Rugs, take it away. What do you got?
Yeah, so Unholy doing worse than Frost here. I first want to point out because Unholy DK's gargoyles are actually getting murdered by the dance mechanic on Heigan, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
Okay.
So that just kind of sucks to be Unholy there. That I just pointing that out. That's basically why Frost is beating Unholy here. And in terms of the rest of the performance, one thing we want to keep in mind is there's been a bit of a evolution in how you play Heigan these days. Is the strat now is to just tank the boss and stand still and just eat all the waves, all the explosions, because you actually will just kill him before he teleports to his platform anyway. So a lot of these parses that we're looking at, most of them will likely be implementing that strategy, which means that classes like DKs will get to use their AMS to gain benefit from the extra runic power that they'll be generating here. Fury Warriors are going to get more rage. And overall, the fight will not be moving so much. So I expect to see Enhance actually move up a little bit from where they are currently. Here in just a couple weeks, they should jump up a lot on Heigan.
Nice.
Once more raids stop moving for it. But Rogues are dumping on Heigan.
Nice.
Absolutely dumping on Heigan. It's crazy to see like how they just took like a massive jump on Heigan all of a sudden. But I think this should... this variance on Heigan should mellow out soon.
Okay. And I see Balance Druid dropped off hard. They're like at the bottom. Like, do you know why?
I don't really know why, and I wonder if it has to do with the opener, the fact that Balance has to move to the platform.
Yeah.
They're probably one of the least mobile ranged out there. They want to hard cast really bad, but they don't have something like a demonic portal or a blink or something. They really just have to move and use an instant cast during that movement. Maybe that's why they're hurting. Not really sure other than that. But yeah, Balance is not doing well. Probably their tree ants are getting killed by the explosion as well, so they're not getting anything out of their summoned trees. I think that would probably hurt them too.
Yeah. Fun story. When I was really trying to do as much DPS on my Balance Druid, there were times where in order to move fastly, I just frantically got into cat form and sprint, and I'm like, come on, I gotta get back in my position, let's go. Oh my god. And another fun thing I want to add about balance too is early Wrath, just to do a little bit of off-roading. Dude, balance in early Wrath when you have no gear, spamming Wrath trying to get that damn Lunar Eclipse proc, it can hurt so bad, dude. Like, first of all, when you have bad gear or pre-raid, you don't have a lot of crit, because obviously first you're focusing on hit. And so you're spamming out Wraths, and then even if you get crits, you can still get very unlucky. So you see crit after crit after crit, and you're just not getting that Lunar Eclipse proc. It's so frustrating, dude. But yeah.
It's very slot machine. It's a big slot machine spec for sure.
RNG, which is exactly why, I don't know if people watching know this, but in Cataclysm they changed it to where you have an energy bar. So there's no RNG. You just cast Starfire, you get 20 solar energy. You cast Wrath, you get 20 arcane energy. Just to completely rule out that RNG, because I think the devs noticed how insanely RNG it was. And even in like I was in ICC gear on I think it was Gamer District and also on Warmane. Just if you have bad luck, you can just do crit after crit after crit, and that Lunar Eclipse just won't come, and then you're like, it really sucks, especially if it's during like the opening of the fight where you can just stand still, or a Lust is being popped. Dude, a Lust being popped and you're like against that GCD with your Wraths and you're not getting the Lunar Eclipse is the worst, dude. Oh my
Absolutely.
God. Jesus. All right. Well, sorry about that. I'll get off my soapbox as a Druid fanboy, but man, I'm telling you, man, I have PTSD when it comes to that stuff.
Hey, somebody's got to stand up for him.
Yeah, exactly. Someone's got to say, this is not okay, okay? All right. Anyway, is there anything else? Actually, we see Shadow Priest in the middle. Usually they're a little lower. They're actually not doing too bad. Is it because of just dot damage or something else? Like, what's going on here?
I think Shadow Priest is doing just about what I'd expect from them here. It's pretty solid. Nothing too crazy here.
All right. Then I guess we can move on to the next boss. All right, and then the last boss of the Plaguewing, Loatheb. And I just want to point out, not the number 1, but the number 4, Fire Mage. Look at them, man. Is that... And I told in my video, that's because of the Spore mechanic. Am I right or am I wrong? Go ahead.
100%. 100% the Spore mechanic. I mean, we've been saying it for a long time, and I know you have too. Fire Mage needs 3 things going for him. They need hit rating badly because Arcane doesn't need as much hit as Fire. And they need crit to get going. And of course, Haste. Haste is how they scale really, really well.
Yep.
So they just need crit. And this boss fight literally just hands them steroids of crit. So yeah, Fire Mage is going to absolutely take a massive jump here on Loatheb. So it's really cool to see.
Nice. And once again, we see Assassination Rogues just dominating. I think the difference here is like, what, 400 DPS versus Demonology Warlocks? Any idea why? Like, is it just more melee favored, or is it just, does the Spectres work really well on Loatheb? What's going on?
Yeah, so Loatheb works really well for energy classes because when you're critting, you're getting double the amount of combo points.
Oh.
So Rogues and Feral Druids actually really like Loatheb for that reason. It's a huge one for energy classes. Massive for energy classes. It's also, again, Loatheb's one of the longer fights of the expansion, or of Phase 1. I want to say Loatheb is probably the second longest after Thaddius for Naxxramas. So this being one of the longest fights, it really plays well to Assassination, again being just like the long, reliable, always going to do well on extended fights. It just plays right up their alley.
Nice. Okay. And also, you mentioned that it's really good for like energy classes and of course combo points, but Feral Druids, they're not doing that great, unfortunately. Again, is it just because they're what do we miss? Are we missing something, or is it just, again, where we thought we would do better?
I don't know. That part like seems really weird to me because when I play Loatheb, I feel like I'm blasting. Comparatively, at least. Maybe just people haven't figured out how to play Feral properly on Loatheb. Maybe they aren't getting enough use out of their additional combo points that they're generating from the fight, because it is like going to drastically change your rotation and playstyle. Perhaps the fact that like people want to bear weave so often maybe like is hurting them on Loatheb when you should be staying cat and getting more bites out and things like that. Maybe that's it. I'm really not too sure. The fight is also kind of long. Feral wants to do fights that are really short for their Berserk, or they want to do fights that are just a little bit longer than 3 minutes so then get that second Berserk off. And Loatheb is about 2 minutes, 45 seconds. So it's unfortunately like a horrible timed fight for Feral.
Okay. And we see both Death Knight specs doing very average here. What's up with that?
Yeah, I think that's just going to be another point to the snapshot and your summons not being added to the spore buff that you're getting as Unholy. Frost to me is doing particularly low, which is really surprising. I'm not quite sure why, possibly due to the fact that they're already getting a lot of crits off with their killing machine procs, so this spore buff doesn't benefit their killing machines at all, which I just find maybe that's one of the cases here with Frost DK. But Unholy with like not only just wanting like a massive snapshot, oftentimes Lust is being held for roughly 20-30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds, and then you use it on Loatheb. So that delayed Lust really hurts Unholy when all of your trinkets and your pre-pot and everything are rolling right at the beginning. If you would Lust on pull, I'm sure Unholy DK would be way higher here, but
there you go.
That's clearly not the case.
Okay, and I see Hunters, both Marksmanship Survival, not doing bad at all actually here.
Mm-hmm.
Any particular reason for it, or is it just, do you happen to know?
I'm not sure. I would wager to bet that Marksman is doing well because they scale well, and you and I both know come ICC, most hunters are playing Marksman. I would imagine that this crit that they're getting is just playing more into their hand of wanting to scale well. But I don't know enough about Hunter to really speak to that, to be honest.
But you're right though, because so far I think every single fight we've seen Survival doing better than Marksman, and here they're actually, it's not by much, but they are beating Survival Hunters. So it's just a good fight for Hunters apparently. Yeah, anything else you want to add, or shall we move on?
No, I think this one looks good. I think Loatheb's a great fight, and it's I'm glad that it's in here because it does look very different than the rest of these charts.
Yeah. I was looking at the charts, and I don't know where I spotted, like, wait. I looked at the highest, like, mage spec. I was like, oh, yeah, that's arcane. All right, okay, let me move on. Like, wait, what? That's fire? What? And then I started thinking, oh, of course, the spore mechanic, the crit and everything. So, yeah. I have a bit of a soft spot for fire, you know. I think arcane is a little, you know, it's great, but I don't know, man. Throwing those big, nasty spiroblasts and the fireballs, it's just, I'm loving it.
Oh, there's nothing like a fire mage, especially late in the game. It's crazy.
Dude, yeah.
Oh, shout out to your Boomy boys here on Loatheb, who basically need to adjust their rotation with Starfall so that they don't accidentally kill a spore that's, you know, way off a mile away from the rest of the raid.
Right.
So that probably hurts them here, having to either change their like usage of it or just remove it entirely from their rotation. So that definitely hurts.
There you go. That's a very good point. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next boss. Okay, we're moving up to another quarter or wing. This time it's the Arachnic wing or quarter. And yeah, we see Unholy Death Knight on top, but actually by a huge margin. It's a little hard to see, but I think it's like somewhere around 700 to 800 DPS. Go ahead, Rux. Why are they just destroying every single class here?
Okay, so from the bosses that we've talked about so far, Anub is the first one where cleave actually counts. And it's only 3 target cleave. The corpse scarabs that come out, you know, like the hundreds of little bugs that you have to kill, those don't matter. Those don't count. So this is just a pure 3 target cleave fight. So this changes a lot for a lot of classes. And specifically on Holy DK and Enhance probably have the least rotational change from going single target to 3 target cleave. All Unholy DK is going to do is just hit a Pestilence, and that's it. 1 Pestilence for a Blood Rune. That's the only thing that changes. And then Enhance is just spinning like a Chain Lightning instead of a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah.
Everything else is the exact same for them rotationally. So they're going to do phenomenal on 3 target cleave like a noob. So this is really, really good for Unholy and Enhance. And then, of course, Combat just takes a massive jump ahead of Assassination. Assassination, who has been in the top 3 for every fight so far, all of a sudden goes way down.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool to see.
I just want to point out, I don't know if you see it, but we see some gray above average. We see Fury Warriors. What's going on? What the hell?
They showed up. They did show up. I mean, they always get like one fight where they get to you know poke their little heads into the top 10. And Anub is definitely their fight. I mean, 3 target cleave has been, always will be. The best format for Fury Warrior, and this is just a really, really good one because Those ads usually don't move a whole lot anyway, so they're right there hitting their cleave and whirlwinds. It's a great fight for Fury Warrior.
Nice. Nice. There we go. And I see Balanced Druids also doing really well. Survival Hunter once again beating out Marksmanship. And Destruction actually really weak here compared to some other fights where they were better. Any reason why? Is it also because of the 3 cleave fight or anything else you can add?
Yeah, I think it would mostly be because of the cleave effect. Demo is going to have incredible cleave with their Metamorphosis and Immo Aura. Affliction is likely multi-dotting here, and I just think Destruction is lacking in that department, where these other 2 specs can, make use of this fight really well. It's also a really short fight, so keep that in mind as well. I think a noob, in terms of speed, is the 2nd fastest or tied for the fastest boss kill in all of Nax, so that's also playing really well for the specs that have these big cooldowns, like again Unholy Decay and Demo. That's massive for them.
Nice. There's one more thing and one more class I want to zoom in on. First of all, you said the tiny little bugs don't count. If they do, I think Red Paladin with their Divine Storm would just do a lot better. And here, you can disagree with me if that's not the case, but here they're doing a little bit better, it seems.
They're definitely doing a lot better here, for sure. And I think if in-game, if you're looking at details, they're probably doing way better than what this chart may make it out to be, because they are likely getting that conk and Divine Storm damage on the bugs when they spawn otherwise. But yeah, Ret Paladin, if they have anything, it's cleave. And so they at least get to, flex their cleave a little bit on this fight and do decently well. So congrats to them for having this one fight where they can do that. And thankfully, these mobs are undead. We'll see with other later cleave fights that they aren't even undead, so it's not like they can make good use out of Sense Undead or Holy Wrath or things like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, Fury Warriors, there you go, man. If anyone tells you you're awful, just, hey, man, look, we got this one fight. Just, we have this. All right.
And Fire Mage doing more than Arcane, which is crazy because Anub is really, really short. And we're talking 60-second long boss fight on average, which is just crazy low. You would think that's great for Arcane, but once you add a couple targets to cleave off of, Fire's right there, and it's only going to get better for Fire.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. One more thing. Elemental Shaman's actually not doing too bad either here. They're top 10-ish.
They're doing solid.
Nice.
Absolutely solid.
Awesome. All right, there you go. That's Anub'Rekhan. Let's go on to the next boss. Okay, next fight. We got Grand Widow Faerlina, and we have once again Unholy dominating. I just want to point out Survival Hunter, number 4. Damn.
Yeah, they did great. And Faerlina is so similar to Anub. It's a cleave fight, but the little small ads that she's with don't actually count to the parse. It's only the 2 followers. So again, it's a 3 target fight just like Anub was. And the average kill time for Faerlina is, again, looking about 60 seconds. So it's extremely similar. The 2 main differences between Faerlina and Anub is Faerlina is human. So you can see Ret Paladin take a pretty big hit there instead of being undead. And also Faerlina, their ads will silence. And so some people will tend to focus down the ads before the boss so that everyone stops getting silenced, or they'll just straight, Zug, just burn down the boss and deal with the silence, and that's to the detriment of the rest of the raid. So I think Balanced Druid does a little bit better here because their cleave isn't going to be interrupted by a silence. As long as they get that Starfall out, they're going to be blasting.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. Also, I think I missed this, but Fury, once again, not doing too bad.
Yeah, not doing too bad either. And I think Faerlina, their ads charge, so they kind of move out of melee range every now and then if they choose to charge like a mob or a healer or a caster out in range. So this one is a little bit harder to keep like a triple stack going, which matters for Fury Warrior. But clearly, their effectiveness is just about as equal as it was on Anub. So shout out to Fury Warrior again, having their moment here.
Nice. And else we see some pretty predictable classes here. Demonology, Affliction, once again, very strong. Enhancement Shaman, very strong. Is there any other class or spec you want to talk about here that's kind of catches your eye?
No, I'm good.
You're good?
Looks good.
All right, cool. Then we can move on to the next boss. Okay, we're moving on to the last boss of the Arachnic Quarter. Rugs, how do you pronounce it?
Maexxna.
Maexxna, there we go. All right, so Maexxna, the big, nasty spider boss. I think this is probably the biggest, like, complete domination we see. Just look at Unholy Death Knight. Insane how far ahead they are.
It's pretty ridiculous, and it's not like this boss is a whole lot different than, say, like Gluth, for example. You know, the opener happens, the boss is being dragged a little bit from your tank, which helps, again, like the gargoyle, like we talked about. A little bit of movement after the gargoyle is summoned helps a ton, but holy shit.
Yeah, it's insane.
Unholy DK just came out of nowhere and took a dump on everyone here. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, if you look at it, like, if you look at number 2, Assassination Rogue, it's kind of like 7,200. And Unholy DK does, like, it's like literally almost 1,000 DPS. 1,000 DPS difference. It's nuts.
Yeah. So some things that are going Unholy's way, as well as with these rogues, is Maexxna is, again, a really fast kill. We're talking like 1 minute, 15 seconds, which is just a little bit faster than Gluth. And a little bit slower than, say, like Anub or Faerlina. But Maexxna has downtime. When everyone gets hit with the web spray, there's no avoiding it, and you have some downtime. But that's okay for Unholy DK, because you're going to have your dots rolling. And that's okay for rogues or a feral druid, because you're going to be pooling up energy during those downtimes. That's okay. That's okay for Affliction Lock, because they're going to have dots rolling there, too. Some classes get interrupted, and that fucking sucks. Like an Arcane Mage, like you don't want to deal with that. Survival Marksman Hunter, that sucks. Really bad. So it's miserable for some classes, and other classes, like, it's not the end of the world.
All right, and we see all Hunter specs doing really bad here. What's up with that?
Yeah, again, they don't want to get interrupted. That's a massive, massive loss for them. And also, most of these hunters are likely assigned to killing web wraps, as they are the best class for killing web wraps. And every raid leader should be forcing their hunters to kill web wraps. That is 100% what they should be doing on Maexxna. That is their role, their only responsibility. They have to do this. So, and I'd also wager to bet that Maexxna probably has a really weird hitbox for hunters. I haven't played it myself, but I'd imagine that trap weaving on Maexxna is probably one of the more weird ones than any other boss fight on this phase.
All right, and I don't know where they come from, but from the shadows, obviously. But Subtlety Rogue once again in the middle, not doing too bad. Like, what the hell? Oh well, it's like it's the little engine, the little spec that could. It's still in the middle there, beating all Hunter specs. I mean, like you said, it makes sense because they got to focus the webs usually. They're the designated web killers. And I see Balance and Feral both not bad at all. Feral actually taking some names here a little bit.
It's really not a bad fight for Feral at all. It really isn't. As long as you don't waste your energy doing a swipe when the little spiders spawn, which do not count to your parse. Maexxna is solid. We can pool energy during web sprays. As long as you can dump your energy before it goes out, you're doing just fine here.
Nice. Is there anything else you want to talk about regarding this boss, or shall we move on? Alright, before we delve into the first boss here of the military quarter, I just heard that Rugs likes Blood Elves. Like, come on, dude. Like, the female ones I understand, but come on. About the male animation, like the way they stand, the way they whack their sword. Like, come on, dude. What is that about?
Okay, I'm not going to defend the males here, but the female Blood Elf is hot.
Sure.
I like the animations. I like the AoE silence. Oh yeah,
sure.
Big fan.
Okay, I don't blame you if you talk about the female Blood Elves. Okay, you are excused. We can move on to Instructor Razuvious, Unholy Death Knight once again up top. Affliction Demo, the purples also very close. Let's see if we have any oddities here. Do you see anything that you want to talk about here? If so, go ahead.
The only oddity to me on this fight is Shadow Priests, and it's probably because there's very, very, very few Shadow Priests in the world who actually get to DPS on this fight.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because they're typically going to be mind controlling, so that's why they are lower than Fury Warrior here. But other than that, I mean, yeah, this looks pretty much part of the course.
Yeah, exactly. Survival Hunter doing quite well. Frost also doing quite well. And I see Arcane Mage doing better than Fire Mage. So yeah, exactly. Pretty much a run-of-the-mill kind of fight, exactly what we expect. I don't think we have much to talk about Instructor Razuvious, right?
Nope. This is pure single target, about a minute 30 long fight. It's basically exactly what we'd expect.
All right, cool. Then let's not waste any more time and let's go on to the next boss. All right, second boss of the military quarter, and we have Demonology Warlock dominating. Not by a whole lot, but actually by a fair amount. What's up here? Why are they number one here over... Why are number one?
Well, Gothik is a weird one because they actually removed Gothik from all parses. Any damage done during Gothik just doesn't count at all.
Really?
To your complete raid damage or anything. Yeah, because I think it's just because it's a weird fight and the phase 1 damage is weird when people only stay on one side of the room or go on or split. It has something to do with like the fact that multiple ads could be spawned, which kind of bugged the encounter, which means like I could go in a raid and I would kill maybe 30 ads, and you could go into a raid the next day and manipulate the fight so that you kill 100 ads in phase 1, which would just inflate numbers.
Yeah.
So I think they kind of like removed it from parses for that reason. So really the only damage that is being done here for these top parses like Demo and Frost DK and whatnot is just when the gates open. If you stack your entire raid on the living side,
Yeah.
gates open, you throw a bop on the demo lock, you can go in and just blast. Your Frost DK can just sit on a killing machine and just wait for the gates to open and then hit a big howling blast, because those ads die in really about like 3 globals. So if you don't have 3 globals worth of damage to get out, then you're basically out. So Enhance and Hunter have their magma totems waiting, and or Survival has their traps waiting. That's basically it.
Yeah. Check out the boys in pink. Check out the Bubble Boys. Yeah.
They can run in there and get their Holy Wrath. Boom.
Exactly.
All the way to the top.
They're there. They're finally able to say, hey, look at that, man. We kill on Gothik. Everything else, the raid leader asks us, can you go prod? Can you go holy? But yeah, they're actually doing not too bad here. Anything else I see? Yeah, just Feral again at the bottom. I mean, it's just so sad to see, man. But like you said, they will get better.
Really sad.
It's good because people, now they don't expect as much. So later, then they can really just kick ass, and people are like, wow, man, they're, maybe it's just they all like, how do you say, like, it's just an agreement under all Feral dudes. Let's just underperform now, and then we'll really surprise them later on. I don't know what you guys are doing. I have almost no experience with Feral, but they're getting beat by Frost mages. Like what?
I mean, what can you do? I mean, you want to run in and swipe, but then all the mobs are kind of like spread out. So the only like damage that can really be done is like a good volley or Holy Wrath, and you're trying to swipe but only hitting like 6 targets at best. It's pretty rough here.
All right, it's a bit of a mess of a fight here. So I don't know if you have anything else to add, or we can move on to the next boss.
No, I'm good here.
All right, and then the last fight of the military quarter for Hoursemen, we kind of see the same thing happening. Demonology, Unholy, and Enhancement Shaman. Affliction, all very strong. Survival doing good. Balance Druid doing very good. Rux, do you have anything to add in this fight? Other than that you already said that Feral is, once again, just...
Yeah, Feral really doesn't like 4 Horsemen, or at least I don't, because 4 Horsemen really fits into every single awkward situation it possibly could. Where if we're triple stacking on 4 Horsemen, which all of these parses are, the triple stack is weird because on 3 target you want to swipe, but they don't live long enough for you to really swipe for much more than maybe 1 or 2 swipes. And then you have to worry about getting up like a rip on all these targets. And so bleeding is a great idea, but they also die so fast that like by the time you even get your bleeds out, they're basically dead already. So it's so bursty and so awkward with the single target that changes into 3 target, then 2 target. It's really, really weird. Shout out to Demonology though. I mean, Demonology actually beating Unholy DK. I feel like it's this one of the only fights where Unholy DK has their pets and can use their pets on this fight, but is actually losing. And it's probably just because Unholy DKs have no mobility whatsoever, where a demo lock can set up a portal so that they're never losing uptime. They can just blast, portal, blast on the last one. Easy.
There you go. And we see Balance Druid doing quite well as well, Ashley. That's nice. Shout out to the Boomies.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Yeah, shout out to the Boomies. No, this one looks Pretty much what I'd expect. I think I would have hoped more for Arcane, but with 3 targets, Arcane just kind of gets beat out by all these other classes ahead of them that have really good cleave.
I gotta ask you though, just a little off-roading. How bad do you feel for elemental shamans? I mean, look at them now, and you know how they will perform in ICC. I mean, we don't know yet. We don't know yet for sure, but I mean, the writing is kind of on the wall, is it?
I feel pretty bad for them, but it's mostly due to the fact that I feel bad that Fire Element doesn't reset on boss kill, and like every other cooldown does. I think if Fire Element like reset, Elemental Shaman would have a really healthy place in the meta. That would also affect Enhanced Shaman. They would jump up to be one of the best DPS in the game. They kind of already are, but they would really compete with Unholy DKs. But Ellie is just, they're at their best form right now, and
Yeah.
even at their best, it's looking a little sad. So I hoped for more for Elemental. I really did.
Same.
I know that Ellie can do insane. In fact, if you would look at like Obsidian Sanctum, which are we gonna do OS?
No, this is just next Ramus, and then we have an overall. I think of everything, but
Okay. But in Obsidian Sanctum, I will say Ellie has really good bursts for OS Zerg if you were gonna Zerg it. So I mean,
nice.
their burst has always been really really good. So anyway, it just kind of sucks for Ellie here.
And what?
Wish it could be better.
Yeah, and what would you say the main problem is with Elemental Shaman? Is it just because their casts are so short and they're pushing against a GCD, or they just don't stack very well with like better gear? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of combination of everything. There's not like any good set bonus that's playing well into them, except for until you get to like tier 10, which is a really good set bonus. But by that time, they've been outscaled by everyone in the entire game.
Fury takes over, Fire takes over. Yeah, it's too little, too late.
Yeah, they're in bad company. The company that they share is just way better than them. It's unfortunate, but a good elemental shaman can do really well when they have Fire Ellie Totem.
Yeah.
Without Fire Ellie Totem, they hurt, and it sucks. And I'm not sure if you know this, but there's been a new discovery about Ellie Shams. If you spec only 1 point into Elemental Oath instead of 2, the crit buff from Elemental Oath will stack with a Boomkin aura instead
Get
of
outta
being
here.
the same. So if they intentionally grief their own personal damage, they will add 3% crit to the rest of the raid.
God. Meme specs of the world. Come on, you got this. Collude. Let's do this. Show these unholy Death Knights and Demo Lux where we can do this.
That will likely be fixed, but if that stays in the game, it maybe gives Ellie like some value, potentially, but it's to their own demise.
Yeah, it's because I love Elemental Shaman in Wrath of the Lich King. Like the addition of Lava Burst, it's so much fun. It's yeah, I feel for the class. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like we're looking at 99% percentile. This is like the cream of the crop. They still do adequate damage. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, you just don't expect to be S tier DPS when you're rolling a shaman, and don't expect things to get better. Maybe they might, but you know what? That's why I'm making these videos. That's why we're having these discussions. We can see how things will go. Maybe Blizzard will mess something up, and for some reason, Lightning Bolt will do 1 million damage. Maybe.
Absolutely. I think they're gonna have their moments, like especially in Ulduar. I'm really excited for you to do this video series in Ulduar because there's so much more to those boss fights than there are here in Nax that I really think like Elisham will surpass their sister spec Enhance on a fight like Vezax. That's like a crazy good caster fight, So all the like really good Enhance players, if they don't need to be enhanced for a certain raid buff, they may as well go Ellie for that fight because it's so good. So there's gonna be moments where Ellie has, their time to shine, but it's gonna be very few and far between.
Oh, okay, cool. So back to 4 Horsemen. Anything else you want to add, or shall we move on?
I'm all good on 4 Horsemen.
Okay, cool. All right, we're down to 2 more bosses, and afterwards we're going to look at the overall damage from all bosses, including things like Malagos, and of course we're also going to compare that to the predictions of the tier list. But for now, let's focus on Sapphiron. So, Sapphiron, we have the purples dominating and Unholy Death Knight number 3. Rogues also doing super well. Anything here to add, Rogues? What do you think?
I think this looks pretty much what I'd expect. The thing about Sapphiron is it's a little bit longer of a fight. We're looking, close to somewhere around 2 to 3 minutes. So this is a much longer fight. So Unholy DK's gargoyle value kind of drops until you hit another 3-minute marker. So Unholy falls off. So Warlocks jump up a bit, especially with their added execute damage. An Assassination Rogue does really well in those longer fights, and they kind of lose uptime because of ice blocks, either having to just completely stop damage on boss or maybe run out of melee range to get behind an ice block if they have to. So Rogues kind of suffered there. To me, the biggest surprise is, I don't know if you noticed, but Frost DK is actually really low. Sure, like this fight favors range, but damn, like Frost losing to Shadow Priest, like what's going on there?
It dropped hard, dude. Look at the difference between the DPS of Frost DK and Subtlety Rogues. It's not much. It's like, what?
Yeah, I genuinely don't know why that is the case, and it makes me wonder, like, does Sapphiron have some type of frost resistance to her that I don't know about? Like, am I crazy for even asking that? Because I don't think that's the case, but Frost is really hurting here, and it's probably because of, losing melee uptime because of the flight phase, but damn, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, if you're watching this and you're a Frost DK and you know what's going on, just let us know, because I'm also stunned. I thought to be higher here, but yeah. Let's see here. What do we have else? Survival doing good. Balance also not too bad. Arcane Mages. And like you said, Shadow Priests, they're not doing too bad either. They're kind of a little bit above average. So
everything else is about what I'd expect. If anything, the Arcane Mage and Balance Druid are too high because those bitches should be decursing. But
well, but the thing,
but that's basically it.
Yeah, the thing is, when you're looking at 99 percentile like parses, there is a high chance that a lot of those parses are people that are just ignoring like mechanics and saying, "Screw you! I'm just gonna try and get the highest parses possible." When we looked at things like this is going way back. Lucifron, you got a lot of decursing, a lot of dispelling. Some warlocks just flat out didn't not warlocks, mages didn't decurse because they wanted to get that high parse. So you're looking at a mage, you're like, oh, they do quite well, but then they're not decursing and people are dying. So maybe that's the case here too. So, that could be possible. All right, anything else to add, or shall we move on to the last boss?
I'm good to move on. This is clean.
All right, and then the last boss we're going to focus on, which is Kel'Thuzad, the last big boy. And we see a lot of purple on top, and Assassination Rogues number 3. Destro once again doing very strong. Take it away, Rux. What do you got to say about this boss?
Yeah, so anything that happens in phase 1 on KT doesn't count here. We're only looking at KT damage, and this is a really long fight. Almost 3 minutes long to kill KT. So you're really only getting one big use out of a 3-minute CD, like a Gargoyle or Berserk or anything like that. As you can see, Warlocks with their execute damage is absolutely dumping on KT, so that's really cool to see. You would think that melee would have a hard time because they're oftentimes going to be hit by those chain ice blocks, but even melee are still doing well. Again, like we've talked about before, Assassination Rogue doing great with these long fights. Unholy DK's Gargoyle value dramatically plummets on a fight that's this duration, that's pushing 3 minutes but not quite. This is really rough for them. This is like the worst value Gargoyle you could possibly get, especially considering the fact that some guilds will even opt to not pop Lust on pull, and they'll instead pop Lust for like execute, which is even better for your Warlocks. So everything else looks pretty good. I feel like Feral is actually doing really well in this fight, doing basically the same amount as a Balanced Druid, which is cool to see.
Yeah, and they're both beating both Arcane and our mages are like struggling here, like hard.
Yeah, I wonder if Mage is struggling here because it's a long fight and Arcane wants really short fights. But also maybe because of detonate mana. I'd imagine that mages are really hurting for mana on this fight. I know that my mages in my guild will oftentimes hit me whispers for innervates on KT, and literally at the same time that healers are asking for innervates, so it becomes like the most frustrating moment to give out an innervate is KT.
So you're
that's probably what's happening here.
So you're in raid chat selling innervates for 200 gold or what? What's going on? Highest bidder gets an innervate.
Absolutely, I would.
Nice. Okay. Anything else to add for KT? Again, this looks pretty standard. Not anything super unusual, I think. But anything else you want to add?
No, I mean everything else looks pretty straightforward. I think maybe I would like to see hunters a little bit higher. These again, like you said, are 99 parses, so it's people ignoring mechanics, but hunters who go into trap weave are kind of risking getting frozen in the melee if they do that, which is big grief not only for their personal like survival, but also for their damage. So trap weaving on here is pretty difficult to pull off, but I would like to see some higher top end from survival here, but
yeah,
that's basically it. Other than that, I mean, it looks really good, and it's nice to see Frost DK right there with Unholy DK, because I think people in general are putting Frost DK in the dirt because Unholy is just like king of phase one, truthfully. Like they are dominating phase one, but Frost, it really isn't that far off. It really isn't.
No, it's very strong. I like how you phrase it. Oh, it looks really good, and then you have the poor Fury Warriors and the Paladins on the bottom. Ah, it looks great, man. Nothing wrong here, eh, man? We're kicking ass. What? I don't play that class. Who cares? Like, yeah, you're just at the bottom. Like, who cares? It's okay, guys. Like we said, you guys do better, especially Fury Warriors. You guys should not complain. Late ICC. When you get like full armor pen, you know, you get your full bits, you get Shadowmourne, like you're gonna do insane damage. Like just wait, okay? It's gotta take some time. And considering how sweaty people get over legendaries, you're gonna have to bust out the credit card for Shadowmourne probably. Maybe get a second mortgage on your house, but you know it's worth it because then you'll be able to do crazy DPS on in ICC.
You're way nicer than me, Hamster. To me, like these warriors are lucky to be be to the damn raid.
Absolutely. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like. Who invites these people? Is it because like these are okay, so these are 99th percentile parses. So it means that whoever specs Fury and it then is the best, it gets to be there. So maybe we're looking at just some very casual guilds, and of those casual guilds, there are some casuals that are just, you know, doing okay-ish, and they get pushed to the 99 parse. So that's what I'm saying too. Like that's another point I want to make. Obviously, the really sweaty people are not playing a Fury Warrior right now. Obviously, the really sweaty people looked at the tier list, look at the parses, look at the logs, and go, okay, the top class right now is Demonology, Assassination, Unholy. I'm going to play that. So that also affects, you know, how well people are doing. So, yeah, like I said, I have no idea who is inviting these people. I'm assuming it's just casual guilds that post their logs. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The same is true for Elemental Shaman. A lot of people see the performance of Elemental Shaman, and despite this being the best capture of their career, it's likely going to fall off from here. They're seeing that and saying, no, I'm not going to go play that. But what's crazy to me, can I cuss on this?
Sure, go ahead.
What's fucking crazy to me is how many people want to play Red Paladin.
Yeah, it's insane.
I'm not even kidding. If you look at the parses, Red Paladin has so many. Like, what are you doing? How are you guys having fun?
Dude, I have a character on Warmane. It's Paladin. I played Red. It's okay, but I just don't understand the appeal. I don't know what the hype is about. Like, why are all the cool kids doing it? Is it the hip new thing? Like, dude, I have no idea too. Again, if you're post in the comments, if you're a Red Paladin. What is it all about? Well, you're doing subpar DPS. You're probably getting shunned from like really sweaty guilds, from like playing that spec. What is it about? Tell us. Is it maybe just because of lore, like you want to be Tyrion Fordring and your name is spelled Fordring, but the eye's a little weird, like you do in WoW, or like what is up? Like, let us know. I don't know, dude.
You know, there are more Ret Paladin players or like recorded parses than there are Frost DK. Or even Enhanced Shaman. That blows my mind.
Insane, dude. It's insane. Oh well. Well, there you go. People like people. I mean, I don't like Red Paladins, but people generally do. I guess that's just a matter of how it is. All right. So that is Kel'Thuzad. That's all the individual boss fights. So last but definitely not least, we're gonna have a look at the overall boss damage. And we're also going to look at the prediction of the Phase 1 tier list. So let's go ahead and check that out. Alright, and then last but not least, we're looking at overall performance. So what you're seeing right now in terms of the parses are all bosses combined. And right next to it is the prediction of the Phase 1 tier list that people kind of made. Rugs, do you have anything to say about this? Anything that you spotted that is unusual, or just take it away?
Yeah, definitely. This tier list to the right is predictive and was put together well before Wrath Classic came out.
Private servers, right?
And when this tier list was being made, I remember the thought process was often a couple things. One, we had no idea that Blizzard was going to have cooldown reset after boss kills.
Absolutely.
That changes a lot of things. That means Unholy DK gets Gargoyle for every fight, no matter what. That means, you're getting Berserk for every fight. Arcane Mages get all their cooldowns for every fight. That changes a lot.
Yeah.
You get Lust for every single fight.
If I may,
also didn't.
Sorry, if I may interrupt one thing. Also, what you guys got to keep in mind here is that most of us are not like, we don't work at Blizzard, we don't have secret access to their code or anything. So most of us, when we were making predictions, all we had to work with, this was not intentional, all we had was experience from private servers. So also take that into consideration. You continue.
That's exactly it, though. I mean, one thing that people need to understand is that Classic Wrath is a different game than the P servers that you and I have played, Hamster. It's a different game, and it has to be treated as such. To say like, oh, we were wrong, or private servers were wrong, or even that Classic Wrath is wrong. No one's right or wrong. It's a different game.
Exactly.
The rules are different, and the scripting is different. There are bugs and there are bug fixes on both that have existed and don't exist anymore. It's crazy. So it's just completely different. You have to take it all with a grain of salt, but at least like there's some like reliability between these two.
Exactly.
At least something is coming out right.
Exactly. You got to look at it as in, the Ford Mustang had the V8 engine, and we're looking at that and the next Mustang, it's probably going to sound amazing. And then out of nowhere, Ford brings out the Mustang EV, and we're like, wait, what? Huh? No one really could expect this, We don't have the insight. We're not in the boardroom meeting. We're not developers. We're just people that love the game, and we look at private servers, and that's the best we got. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so of course, if we look at the parses, and of course, like we've already talked about it, Feral was predicted S. It fell off really hard. But I would just like to say, credit where credit's due. I think to you, and I think Crix also was involved in making tier lists. A few other people as well. What I have right there next to me is kind of like a mix, if you will, of the tier lists. And despite us not having the inside scoop, so to say, it is still pretty accurate. We still see Affliction and Demonology Warlock doing really well. Unholy is a little better than Frost, but Unholy was predicted A, so it's also very close. We see Survival Hunter doing better than Marksmanship Hunter, which again is accurate. So there are some surprises, but generally speaking, I thought you guys actually did quite a good job of predicting what it will be. And it's really fun to see these... Pharaoh is not fun to see doing bad, but it's fascinating. There you go. Fascinating was the word I was looking. It's fascinating to see some huge differences in these tier lists, and is now that we know this, Rugs, because you've made a video where you predicted tier lists per phase. Are you going to change those tier lists now? Like, do you have any alterations for, let's say, phase 2 Ulduar? Now that you know this information.
Absolutely. I feel like you have to have some type of a loose grip on these things. If you hold too tightly to these predictions, then you're just going to be stuck in some type of stubborn mentality that doesn't adapt to the evolution of the meta. Also, this predictive list didn't account for things like Tricks of the Trade and Hysteria being removed from logs. We always played on... Yeah.
Oh my god, none of them didn't know. Okay, there you go.
I mean, you and I, we would have predicted Feral to be high because Feral is always going to get your Hysteria,
Yeah.
But now that, Hysterias are being fully taken off of logs. Also, the fact that like Blood Decay isn't being played much in Naxxramas because it's not needed at all. That like is a big nerf to feral druids, because typically you and I are used to playing ferals with a reliable Hysteria every single time they berserk, and then affliction locks. I'm used to seeing them topping every single meter because they're getting every single tricks of the trade, but that's not being represented here on this on the graph to the left that we're looking at. Like, if maybe tricks of the trade is in there, maybe affliction is actually topping Unholy and Demo on basically all overall. So, just another thing to consider.
Nice. I just want to say that destruction. I think destruction was D, right? I think D, right? I think I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Next retribution and marksmanship. I'm really happy they did better, but that's because I'm biased. I played one personally, all the way from like Nax to ICC. So and again, I was, like I said, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. So I wasn't like this professional warlock player that really knew what was going on, and all the peasants, they just didn't know. I was just like that very optimistic, naive player that's like, I'm gonna go Destro and I'm gonna prove you guys wrong. Well, look at me now, it's like doing pretty good, eh? Because back then, when I was raiding with my friends, they were like, they're my friends, and at the end of the day, we should have fun. But they were like hinting, like, hey, demonology is pretty cool, dude. You should, maybe you should like switch. And I'm like, no, sorry, I like the fat chaos bolts too much. So, yeah.
I think our prediction on that is also, challenged by the fact that we just didn't have information on it. There were not enough hamster wheels out there to play it, to learn it, to master it, to break it, to push it to its limits. Because, and it's still true to this day, like, Destro Lock has one of the lowest amounts of parses on Nax. It's going Subtlety Rogue, BM Hunter, Frost Mage, and then Destro Lock for like the lowest played specs. So there just aren't a lot of people playing it. So it would have been like the hardest to predict on this list, because all the others on this tier list you can see that I just mentioned are all on this like gray tier list where we just have no idea. Like, who cares?
Exactly.
It's basically a similar situation with Destro.
Exactly, and I really hope that now people see somewhat the potential of, because I imagine that right now, the people that did go through Naxxramas with Destruction, they weren't the sweaty tryhards. I hope that now that people see that this Destro actually isn't that bad, that some people will say, you know what, I'm gonna get dual spec and I'll give Destro a go, and who knows, they might actually go a bit higher. Like, come on guys, come on, do it for me. I'm a Destro fanboy. Let's go, Is there anything else you want to add to this tier list, or something else you want to talk about, or other comments, thoughts, tips?
I think that Ret Paladin is doing even worse than the copium I had for them. Like, I legitimately thought like Ret had some value phase 1 and could do some numbers. I had one friend who played Ret Paladin. He was the only person that I ever knew that would actually pump on Ret Paladin in all my years on P server. And even then, like, no matter what, like, they just can't push. There's a ceiling to Ret Paladin, and it is low, and it's pretty sad.
Yeah, I have little experience playing Ret Paladins. Do they at least bring good support? Is there something else, like, I'm doing low DPS, but I'm giving you this? Or is there just, like, is there something else?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Like, especially in the next phase, like when you really need to start busting out all your cooldowns and usefulness. Ret Paladin brings 3% damage buff, which is the only other class that brings that is Arcane Mage.
Yeah.
And so when all your mages want to go fire, you have to have a Ret Paladin in the raid. You have to.
Okay.
That's just like a basic mandatory buff that you want to have. Plus all their like sacrifices that they can give with their Hand of Sac or their Divine Sac or a Salvation and things like that. It's extremely useful to have them.
Okay. Cool. Any other thoughts or something, or is it all? Did you say what you wanted to say here?
I feel good. I like what we're looking at here. I think this chart on the left is a really good capture of where we're at in phase 1, and I'm excited to see how this evolves into Ulduar, because Ulduar is drastically different than phase 1.
Absolutely. Just a quick question: do you know by any chance when Ulduar will be released, or is that not announced yet? I don't think so, right?
No, it's not announced yet, and I'd imagine it's probably not until 2023.
Ooh,
And I think that's
okay.
fine.
Yeah, yeah.
So probably sometime maybe late January if I had to guess.
Nice. Okay, so that's really good because then there's plenty of time for people to get like full phase one bis, and then right before Ulduar, I can do this again. Maybe I can invite you again. We can talk about it, see how things have changed. So that's really cool. But yeah, for now, Rugs, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Where can people find you?
I stream on Twitch every now and then when I have raids. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/RUGSZ. On YouTube, I'm just Rugs RUGS. I mostly just do videos like this. I love to come, guest appear on all random, various different podcasts or videos that people are doing. I absolutely love it. I'm obsessed with Wrath of the Lich King, and can't thank you enough for having me on here, Hamsterwheel. Just to get to have the conversation with you and talk more about this video game that I'm obsessed with. It's a real treat, man.
All right, awesome. And a big thanks to you too for giving me a lot more insight because evidently, as we saw, you're able to give me a lot more insight and a lot more details about certain classes and specs. All the links, guys, for his Twitch and YouTube will be in the description, so please check him out. Please subscribe to him. You've been blowing up actually quite nicely, but I think we can do better. That number, I think you're around 15K subscribers on YouTube or something like that right now.
Close to. I think I'm around 13, 14.
Come on, guys, we can get it to 30. Let's go. Let's go. I have 40. I have almost. I think I have close to 50,000 subscribers. Come on, guys. Like, just subscribe to him. Just do it. Do it. Your hamster overlord tells you to. All right, man. Hey, thanks again for being on. It was an absolute pleasure, like I said, and we'll stay in touch. And also, thanks to you guys, for the viewers, for sticking around. Hope you guys learned something. Hope you guys were able to be entertained. And yeah, like I said, try Destro. It's pretty good. There you go. Rugs, any last words?
No, man. Thanks so much for having me. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
All right, guys.
Love you guys.
All right, have a good one.